Hi everyone, welcome back to Napier-Looby's Black History Month Spotlight Series. As we stated before, this is just a moment for us to honor the people who have paved the way for Napier-Looby and continue to honor those who are doing the work today. Today we're excited to highlight Ronald J Dowdy, who's a Napier-Looby member. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. Hey Jamar.
Hi.
Thank you so much for taking time to speak with us today. We really appreciate all that you do for us, all that you do for the community. So just thank you for taking time out of your day to come talk with us and allowing us to highlight you for this series. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first, thank you, Cynthia, for asking me to do this and for your leadership as well in Napier-Looby and in across our community. So, as you said, my name is Ronald J Dowdy. I have been an attorney for 16 years now. I've spent my entire career working as a prosecutor, first starting at the state attorney's office in Miami. And then I moved back home. This is my home here in Nashville, and have been working at the district attorney's office since 2017. In that time, I have led our domestic violence team. More than 50% of our crime in Nashville is domestic violence, so I led our largest team to ensure that we were able to get resources for victims of domestic violence and help them get to safely and get out of the cycle of violence. And of course, to hold their abusers accountable. I led the Crimes Against Children team at our office for almost 2.5 years, and that is, I have 2 little girls, and so I always think it's very important, as I'm sure you do, to protect the most vulnerable of our community, and so I helped lead that team. But I'm also a father, as I just said, and a husband, and child of God.
Okay. Well, I will say to the husband part, I have the privilege of working alongside your wife, so that's fun. But it sounds like you have a very storied career in public service and serving the people in the community and ensuring justice is being served. So can you tell us a little bit about what's the work or the purpose that really drives you? And when I say that, when you think about your personal mission, what motivates you to show up in your career in your community?
Sure. And so there's one thing there's a quote that has guided me throughout my career. It was by Dr. Martin Luther King. He said that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. And a lot of people interpret that to mean that justice is inevitable, but I believe that he was saying that if we fight to bring justice, we have to work for it in order for us to have a more equal, more fair, more just society. And so that's been a guiding light for me, but also as I've been working in criminal law, just my experiences growing up, the people that I know who have had both good and bad experiences within the justice system, people who felt like as victims they weren't treated fairly, and the same when they were defendants where they weren't treated fairly. And so what I believe is that our system has to make sure that we have the correct balance and ensure that everyone's voice is heard and everyone who deserves second chances will get one.
That's important. It's important. And one of the things that one of the guiding principles of Napier-Looby is advocating for the Black community and doing community outreach in the Black community in the surrounding areas. So you're a Napier-Looby member. Can you tell us a little bit about how did you first get involved with Napier-Looby?
Sure. So I first got involved in Napier-Looby, I believe it was a lawsuit. I went to the University of Tennessee, but I did an internship here at the Public Defender's Office one summer. And so I had some involvement there. But I have primarily got involved since I've been back working as an attorney over the last 9 years. And so I've thoroughly enjoyed being able to come and network and build community with other Black lawyers here in Nashville who all have a unified purpose, which is one, to ensure that we're able to pull up as we climb, and that we're able to further expand our reach and make sure that we have a community that reflects, a legal community that reflects Nashville.
That's very important. And when we think about the work that Napier-Looby does, we have to think about the people in the past who have paved the way for us. And February is Black History Month. So Black history means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So can you tell us how Black history has shaped your why or influenced the way you move through the legal community?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, I think about Black History Month in terms of there's a picture that was on my wall of Thurgood Marshall, James Napier, George E.C. Hayes. They are standing outside of the Supreme Court after they won the Brown versus Board of Education. And those three men were the architects or part of the architects of the civil rights movement from the legal perspective, right? And because of that, I'm able to go to University of Tennessee. And because of that, my wife is able to go to the University of Miami Law School. And we're able to build a career and a family and things like that. And if not for them doing those things, it's hard to say that you and I would be sitting in this wonderful law firm that you're working at if they hadn't put themselves on the line and fought diligently and long nights to do so.
No, that's important. That's true. We would not be sitting here. That's just the reality of it is. But I think about that. So you obviously have a career in public service and you're advocating in your community. Was there ever a particular moment or even a person that sticks out in your mind that made you want to be out in the community, serve the community, or what really helped shape you to have the service-oriented life?
Sure, and I grew up learning about Black history, having gone, when my parents made sure that was important to me, and so service has always been a part of my life. I think as I've entered into my legal career, I've learned about individuals who have helped motivate me along the way. And I think of Justice Adolfo Birch. He was the first Black prosecutor here in Nashville. I spent my career at the district attorney's office. And so that's somebody who is motivating to us. You walk into our office and what you see is a bunch of pictures, and if this camera turned around, you would see pictures of white guys who are important to this firm. Well, the district attorney's office, we have all these pictures of all the past district attorneys, the district attorney generals. They're all white guys, and that it is what it is. So Justice Birch being that first Black man, first Black person working there, and then going on to be the first Black judge, and ultimately the first Black Supreme Court justice here in Tennessee is someone who has motivated me, so much so that I am now seeking in my campaign to run for Criminal Court Judge Division 3, which is the seat that Justice Birch initially held.
Okay. Well, I learned something new because I knew he was the first Black judge, but I did not know he was the first Black prosecutor. So talking about Black history, I'm learning something every day. And I want to talk about if you could meet with anybody in history or present that's Black, who would it be? But first, I want to talk about you running for a criminal court judge. Tell us a little bit about why you're running and what your plan is if you're successful in your campaign.
Sure. So I'm running because I've spent my career dedicated to fighting for victims so that they could get justice, but also understanding that not all the time are there people who look like us or who don't have the means to hire a great attorney. Are they getting the proper representation or a proper shot at justice in our system? So I've always tried to make sure that when I have a case, I don't think about I try to look at them as a person and look at the totality of that human and say, okay, is this a person who deserves a second chance? This is a good person who just made a mistake, or is this somebody who is actually sought to cause harm to our community? Because the same poor and impoverished people who are end up being defendants, a lot of times they're the victims as well, and they deserve a voice in our courtrooms, in our system. So I want to make sure that we're making that fair balance. And so that's what is motivating me to seek this judgeship. As judge, what is important to me is that every victim's voice will be heard, and that every person who deserves a second chance will get one. There are young people who have found themselves making mistakes, and we want to make sure that we turn them around, get them back on the right path. There are people who are dealing with addiction or mental health issues. They need rehabilitation and restoration, and they need an extra hand, someone who's going to make sure that we stick with them and not just lock them up and throw the key away. And so we have the resources. Well, a lot of times we don't actually use our time and effort to do that. And lastly, what I would say is that judges have more discretion then sometimes they lead on. You know, sometimes they just say that, oh, well, this is what it says. I don't have the discretion to go beyond that. Well, actually, they do if you look at the statutes, look at the case law. And so if they actually use their discretion when it's appropriate, of course, then I think we can have a lot of people will get better outcomes, and they will feel like they were treated more fairly in our system.
No, that's really important, and I love that mission and what's driving you to run for judge. So if somebody's watching this and they want to learn more about your campaign, is there a website or any events coming up that they can learn more about your campaign?
Yes, absolutely. So you can go to my website, which is votefordowdy.com. That's vote, F-O-R, Dowdy.com. And I'm having a big campaign kickoff event on February the 10th. That's a Tuesday at 5:30 at Duco's restaurant. Duco's is spelled D-U-K-O-S.
Okay. Thank you for the information. So I know I mentioned somebody in Black history. If you could meet and sit down and talk to anybody in Black history, and or even currently who's doing the work, who would that person be?
The attorney who I have looked up to the most in my career has been Johnny Cochran. A lot of people think of him as somebody who did the rhyming, but Johnny Cochran is someone who began his career doing civil rights work, and then he went into the district attorney's office out in Los Angeles, and he was a leader within that office prosecuting cases. Then he left and became a defense attorney, wildly successful, and his career spanned many different things, but what was steadfast in his career is that he was a serious advocate for his clients and for justice, and he was a leader amongst that. And so the reason that he was able to be elevated to such a high point where everybody knows who Johnny Cochran is because he spent those long hours, those long days working hard on his cases and working on his craft. And as a trial attorney, I spent my career trying to emulate him in many ways.
Well, he's definitely a good person to have dinner with. I'm sure you could learn a lot
Yeah.
and share a lot of different stories as well. So we talked about Jamar, who's the public servant, who's the advocate, who's the attorney, who's running for judge. But tell us about what's something we wouldn't know if we were looking at your resume. What's something about you that's not on your resume? Do you have like any hobbies or interests or anything?
Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, I help coach my daughter's basketball team. I also kind of help coach the softball team when they need the extra help because there is a coach and I don't like to overstep boundaries. But I'm a big DIY person, and so I like to build things, woodworking, things like that. And so if you come to my house or if you ask Flynn, she'll tell you I got all these projects that I'm working on. Many of them I've successfully completed, but there are some that are still in progress. So woodworking is my way to kind of like turn my brain off while it's still acting. Like you can use your hands and things like that. I like to think that if I hadn't become a carpenter, then maybe if I hadn't became a lawyer in a different life, I would be a carpenter because it's something that I really enjoy.
Oh, that's interesting. And that's a good skill to have. So that's cool. So looking ahead, what does continuing the legacy of Black excellence in service look like for you?
Sure, and I think it just means to continue to remember what our mission and what our focus is for those of us who care deeply about our community. Never forget where we came from. Never forget the people that we're fighting for, and to make this our community better. And so, as long as we stay grounded in that and not just stick to we're hanging out with our lawyer buddies and at our white shoe locations, and if we remember, like, we come from people who are proud of us, who worked hard and prayed over us to make sure that we got to these positions because they knew that the purpose of us being here was so that we could help them and help others like them. And so that is what I think my legacy, I hope, will be, and what I'm trying to do as I continue forward in my career.
Well, that's a good one. So, well, thank you, Jamar, for sitting down and talking to us. We really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Okay, Martin.